The sun was beginning to dip toward the horizon, casting a golden glow over the quiet coastal town. The sound of waves hitting the shore mixed with the distant calls of seagulls, creating a serene atmosphere. On this day, The Rock and John Cena were not just famous actors or wrestlers. They were volunteers for a charity project filming near the beach. Their focus was on helping the community and raising awareness about safety near water. But neither of them expected that the day would take a completely different turn. After finishing a few shots for the charity commercial, they both decided to take a short break. The crew scattered around the beach, some organizing equipment while others enjoyed a quiet moment near the shoreline. The Rock, ever observant, noticed a small flicker of light coming from a distant part of the beach far beyond the usual walking paths. He squinted against the sunlight, trying to make sense of it. At first he thought it might be a reflection off a piece of glass or maybe a camera lens catching the sun at the right angle, but as he looked more closely, the flicker seemed intentional. It repeated itself in a pattern. John Cena, noticing The Rock's focused gaze, asked, "What is it?" The Rock pointed toward the flickering light. "Look at that. That's not natural. Someone is signaling." Cena frowned, his instincts kicking in. Both men had faced countless physical challenges in their careers, but this was different. This wasn't a staged stunt, and there was no director to call a cut. Someone might be in real danger. They quickly realized the pattern in the flashes. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. The SOS signal. Their concern deepened. Without wasting a moment, The Rock motioned to Cena. "We can't wait for anyone else. We need to check on this." Cena nodded, his face serious. The rest of the crew might think they were overreacting, but they both knew better. Time mattered in situations like this. Nearby, a small rescue boat that had been part of the filming setup for water shots was tied to a dock. They hurried over, cutting through the soft sand that squished under their feet. The waves lapped gently, hiding the potential danger beneath. They jumped into the boat, checking that the engine was ready. With the sunset painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, they started moving toward the source of the signal, their hearts racing but minds focused. The water around them was calm at first, but as they moved closer to the cliffs, they noticed the waves growing stronger. The tide was coming in and the current was unpredictable. The boat rocked under them, forcing both men to hold on tightly. They scanned the rocky shore, eyes searching for any sign of life. Finally, they saw her, a teenage girl alone standing on a rock ledge. Her arms waved frantically, and her small flashlight flickered in the dimming light. Her kayak had overturned somewhere nearby and she was stranded. The situation looked dangerous. The waves could easily sweep her off the rocks. The Rock leaned over the boat, shouting to get her attention. Cena did the same from the opposite side, making sure she knew someone was coming to help. The girl's face was a mixture of fear and hope. She shouted something, but the sound of the waves drowned her voice. The Rock raised his hand in a calming gesture, showing her that she needed to stay still. Cena untangled a rope, preparing to throw it to her as soon as they got close enough. Both men coordinated their movements carefully. The waves were unpredictable, and one wrong step could put all 3 of them at risk. The boat drifted closer inch by inch as the waves pushed it sideways. The Rock, realizing that the current was too strong to rely solely on the boat, decided to take a risk. He told Cena to hold the rope tight and jumped into the water. The cold shock of the sea hit him, but he pushed through it. His powerful strokes brought him to the girl in seconds. Cena's hands were steady on the rope, anchoring it to the boat, ready to pull them both to safety. The girl clung to the Rock immediately, fear written all over her face. He spoke softly, telling her to stay calm, and that help was right there. Her small body trembled, but she held on. The current tugged at them, and the Rock adjusted his grip, shielding her from the harsh waves. Cena began pulling the rope, straining against the force of the water, every muscle in his body working in perfect coordination with the Rock. A particularly strong wave hit, almost knocking them off balance. The Rock kept his focus, using his strength to stabilize both himself and the girl. Step by step, they inched closer to the boat. Cena's arms ached from the effort, but he refused to let go. The girl's breathing grew heavier, but she felt safer knowing that they were right there, refusing to let anything happen to her. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they reached the boat. The Rock helped the girl climb aboard, and Cena immediately pulled the rope, securing the boat against the incoming waves. They were soaked, exhausted, and hearts still pounding, but relief washed over them. The girl hugged herself, tears streaming down her face, expressing a mixture of fear, gratitude, and disbelief. She had been stranded alone, feeling hopeless, and suddenly, two strangers, two larger-than-life heroes, were there to save her. Back on the boat, the Rock wrapped a blanket around her shoulders, trying to warm her shivering body. Cena checked her for any visible injuries. She was shaken but miraculously unharmed. She explained between sobs that she had been kayaking alone when her boat capsized, leaving her stranded. Her phone had been her only lifeline, and she had managed to send out an SOS with the flashlight, hoping someone would notice. The Rock and Cena exchanged a glance, both silently acknowledging that they were in the right place at the right time. The girl's courage had saved her in a way, too. Her presence of mind to signal for help had made all the difference. Cena guided the boat back toward shore, with the Rock comforting her and keeping her calm. The sun was nearly gone, casting a soft twilight over the water. But their mission wasn't over yet. As they approached the beach, bystanders and some crew members had gathered, alerted by the distress signal and their return. The Rock and Cena helped the girl out of the boat, keeping her steady on her feet. Emergency responders arrived shortly after, checking her condition and making sure she was safe. She was frightened but visibly relieved. She hugged both of them tightly, expressing her gratitude in a way that words could barely capture. Throughout the ordeal, neither the Rock nor Cena sought attention. They were focused on the girl's safety, not on recognition. Reporters arrived later trying to get statements, but both men downplayed their heroism, emphasizing that anyone would have acted the same way if they saw someone in danger. The girl, still in shock, could barely comprehend that two of her idols had risked themselves to save her life. As the scene quieted down, the girl shared her story in more detail. She had ventured out alone, never imagining that the sea could become so dangerous so quickly. Her determination to survive, combined with her quick thinking, had led to the signal that ultimately saved her. The Rock and Cena listened attentively, offering gentle reassurances and sharing light conversation to ease her nerves. Their human side, their ability to connect, made the experience less frightening for her and more meaningful for everyone witnessing it. By the time night fully settled, the girl was in good hands and both men stayed until they knew she was safe. They watched as she was taken to a nearby shelter for further observation, still wrapped in blankets, still shaking slightly, but no longer in immediate danger. The beach, once a place of serenity, had become a scene of heroism, courage, and human connection. What began as a simple charity day had turned into a life-saving mission, proving that bravery is not just about strength or fame, but about noticing a signal when someone needs help and taking action without hesitation. The Rock and Cena finally returned to the crew, soaked and tired, but with a sense of fulfillment that went beyond words. That evening, as the stars appeared in the sky, they reflected on what had happened. They didn't talk about fame or recognition. They talked about humanity, courage, and the impact one moment can have on a life. They knew that the girl's quick thinking, combined with their willingness to act, had changed everything. It was a moment none of them would ever forget. A story of real-life heroism that didn't need the spotlight to be powerful. In the quiet of the night, the beach returned to its peaceful state. Waves continued their endless rhythm, and the moon reflected softly on the water. But now, the place carried the memory of a brave girl, two unexpected heroes, and a rescue that showed the true meaning of courage and care. It was a story that would inspire everyone who heard it, a reminder that even ordinary moments could become extraordinary when people chose to act with heart, without waiting for permission or applause. As the sun disappeared completely behind the horizon, the sky turned a deep purple dotted with early stars. The beach that had been alive with the day's activity became quiet again, except for the occasional rustle of the waves. But for the Rock, John Cena, and the young girl they had rescued, the evening was far from calm. The girl had explained how she had been stranded on the rocks, and although she was now safe, the ordeal had left her visibly shaken. Her breathing was uneven, and she kept glancing toward the dark water as if expecting another wave to pull her in. The Rock knelt beside her, speaking in a calm and steady voice. "You're safe now. You did exactly the right thing by signaling for help. That's why we found you." Cena, standing on the other side, added, "We're not leaving until we know you're okay. You're not alone anymore." The girl's eyes were wide, showing both relief and lingering fear. She nodded slowly, still gripping the blanket that the Rock had wrapped around her. She had been scared and alone, but now she realized she wasn't alone anymore. Two men she had admired for years were sitting beside her, not as celebrities but as people who cared. Their presence made her feel grounded, like the chaos of the ocean behind her was slowly losing its power. Meanwhile, a few crew members had stayed behind to support the actors and the girl. One of them held a small flashlight, shining it softly to help the group see in the dark. A police officer arrived, checking the area to make sure no other dangers were nearby. The girl explained how her kayak had tipped over and how she had tried to swim back to shore, but the current had been too strong. Her voice trembled as she spoke, but the calm reassurance from the Rock and Cena kept her from panicking further. The Rock suggested that they move to a safer spot on the beach, away from the rocks and the water's edge. Cena guided the girl carefully, his hand on her back to steady her as they walked. The crew helped with her blanket and her small backpack, which had drifted from the overturned kayak. The girl's legs were shaking, not from cold but from adrenaline and fear. The simple act of walking on solid ground felt like a small victory after the dangerous experience she had just faced. As they reached a more secure area, Cena crouched down beside her again. "You're really brave. It takes a lot of courage to signal for help like you did, and even more to stay calm while waiting for someone to come." The girl looked down at her hands, clasped tightly together. "I was scared. I didn't know if anyone would see me," she admitted quietly. The Rock put a hand on her shoulder, giving a gentle squeeze. "That's why it's important to stay hopeful. You did everything right. You never gave up, and that's what got you through this." The girl's eyes began to glisten, and she nodded again, taking a deep breath. The calm voices of the Rock and Cena were starting to sink in, helping her feel a little safer. She had been alone in the dark with the ocean against her, but now she could finally feel some control returning. The police officer and the paramedics checked her over to make sure there were no injuries. She was cold and wet but otherwise unharmed. A paramedic offered her a warm drink, which she accepted, sipping slowly. The Rock and Cena stayed close, making conversation about light topics, trying to distract her from the recent trauma. They talked about movies, silly stories from their past experiences, and even joked about the challenges of working in water scenes. The girl giggled softly, the first real sign of relief. Meanwhile, Cena noticed the tide rising near the rocks and realized that if they had waited a few more minutes, the rescue could have become much more dangerous. He shared this with the girl in a way that emphasized her courage. "You were lucky, but more than luck, you were smart. That signal saved your life. It was the right thing at the right time." The girl's family arrived shortly after, alerted by the authorities. When they saw her safe, tears filled their eyes. They rushed forward, embracing her tightly. The Rock and Cena stepped back respectfully, giving the family the space to reconnect. The girl's mother held her close, whispering words of relief, while her father thanked both men with deep gratitude. Despite the attention from her family, the girl's eyes kept returning to the Rock and Cena. She wanted to say more, but words failed her. She could only nod and smile weakly, overwhelmed by everything that had happened. Both men acknowledged her with a warm smile, silently communicating that it was okay to be overwhelmed and that the important thing was her safety. Once the girl was safely with her family, the Rock and Cena walked a little away from the crowd, speaking quietly. "Moments like this," the Rock said, "they remind you why it's important to pay attention. Someone's life can change in seconds, and we were just lucky to be there." Cena nodded in agreement. "It's not about us. It's about seeing a need and responding. That's what matters. That girl is brave, and today we just had the chance to be part of her story." The crew, police, and paramedics gradually packed up, leaving the beach quiet once more. The Rock and Cena remained for a few extra minutes, reflecting on the evening. The experience had been intense, but it also brought a deep sense of fulfillment. They had not only saved a life, but they had helped a young person feel hope in a frightening situation. As they walked back toward the vehicles, the girl waved from a distance, a small smile on her face. The Rock and Cena waved back, their hearts lighter knowing she was safe. Even though the sun had set, the impact of the day shone brightly. It was a reminder that courage, hope, and quick action could turn a dangerous situation into a story of survival and care. The ride back to the town was quiet, each lost in thought. They reflected on the unexpected ways life could test people and the importance of responding with compassion. The Rock and Cena knew that fame or recognition was irrelevant in moments like these. It was about being present, noticing when someone needed help and acting without hesitation. By the time they reached their hotel, the town was fully bathed in night. Streetlights cast soft glows on quiet streets, and the ocean's distant roar was barely audible. They checked in briefly, shared a quiet meal, and then went to their rooms still thinking about the girl. Neither could sleep immediately, their minds replaying the events and the intensity of the rescue. But there was a sense of satisfaction, a feeling that they had truly made a difference. Late that night, the girl rested safely at her home surrounded by family. She thought about the two men who had come to her aid, imagining them not as celebrities but as ordinary people who had chosen to act in a critical moment. She realized that heroism could take many forms and that sometimes the simplest decisions, like noticing a light and choosing to investigate, could save a life. As the town slept, the story of courage and human connection quietly unfolded. The girl's family would share the story with neighbors and friends, but for her, the memory would be personal and profound. The rock and Cena's presence would always remind her that in the darkest moments, there were people willing to help without expecting anything in return. The following morning, the beach looked peaceful and untouched. The waves continued their rhythmic motion, and the sun rose gently, bringing warmth to the town. The girl went back to her normal life, but the experience remained with her, teaching lessons about bravery, hope, and the kindness of strangers. The Rock and Cena returned to their filming schedule, carrying with them the knowledge that real-life moments of heroism mattered more than any scene they could perform. The story of the SOS signal, the rising tide, and the two men who responded would live on quietly in the memories of those involved. It was a reminder that in the midst of ordinary days, extraordinary acts of courage and compassion could happen. And for the girl, every time she looked out at the ocean, she remembered the feeling of being rescued, the kindness she had received, and the lesson that hope and action could truly change everything. The following morning arrived with a gentle breeze brushing the town, carrying the salty scent of the ocean. The events of the previous evening still lingered in the minds of The Rock and John Cena. While the beach appeared calm and ordinary, the memory of the girl stranded on the rocks, the rising tide, and the frantic SOS flashed vividly in their minds. It was not the type of day one could simply forget, no matter how busy their lives were. After a quick breakfast, they decided to visit the girl again, this time at her home. They wanted to check on her well-being and make sure she felt safe. The walk through the quiet streets of the town was peaceful, and locals waved as the two men passed by, smiling but giving them space. The Rock and Cena didn't seek attention. Their focus remained solely on the young girl and her family. When they arrived, the girl's parents opened the door, their expressions a mix of relief and gratitude. The mother immediately invited them in, gesturing toward the girl who sat on the couch, still wrapped in a blanket. Her eyes widened as she saw them, and a shy smile appeared on her face. Despite the initial awe, she felt comfortable enough to speak, telling them about the night in fragments, describing how scared she had been and how she had struggled to stay afloat while thinking no one would find her. The Rock sat beside her, listening intently. "You were very brave," he said softly. "It's not easy to stay calm in such a situation. But you did the right thing by signaling for help." Cena joined in, leaning slightly forward. "It takes courage to act when everything feels uncertain. You made a choice that saved your life. That's something remarkable." The girl nodded, still processing the attention and the praise. Her parents watched quietly, their eyes glistening, and the room was filled with a sense of relief and warmth. It was a simple yet profound human moment, two strangers who could have been anywhere, showing genuine care for someone who had faced a frightening experience. They spent time talking about safety near water, discussing how quickly situations could change and why it was important to be prepared. The girl's parents listened carefully, asking questions, and appreciating the guidance from people who had real-life experience, not just fame. The Rock and Cena shared stories of training in water, working with rescue teams, and learning to anticipate danger. Their goal was not to impress, but to educate and reassure. After a while, the conversation shifted to lighter topics. The girl asked questions about their lives, curious about what it was like to travel for work and help people in different places. The Rock and Cena answered openly, sharing humorous and relatable stories from their experiences. The girl laughed for the first time in hours, a sound that lifted the mood in the room. Her parents smiled, grateful for the small but meaningful distraction from the anxiety of the previous night. As the morning turned into afternoon, the Rock suggested a small walk outside, feeling that fresh air and movement would help the girl regain confidence. She agreed, still holding the blanket tightly around her shoulders. They walked through the nearby park, pointing out familiar landmarks and sharing light conversation. Every step was deliberate, helping her remember that the world was safe again and that she could trust the people around her. During the walk, the Rock noticed the girl's gaze lingering on the water at a nearby pond. He gently asked if she was feeling anxious. She admitted she was, explaining that the ocean that had seemed so threatening the night before now triggered fear whenever she saw water. Cena added encouragement, reminding her that it was normal to feel shaken after a dangerous experience. They suggested small steps, starting with observing water from a safe distance and gradually building confidence. The walk continued, with laughter slowly replacing tension. The girl began to ask questions about how they had spotted her SOS and why they had acted so quickly. Cena explained that the pattern of the signal had been recognizable immediately, and their instincts told them that someone needed help. The girl listened intently, fascinated by how something as simple as a flashlight could communicate urgency and bring help. The Rock emphasized that paying attention and acting decisively were skills everyone could use in emergencies. By the time they returned to her home, the girl was more relaxed, though still cautious. They spent time reflecting on the importance of family and community, highlighting how support from others could make even frightening experiences manageable. Her parents expressed deep gratitude, thanking the Rock and Cena not just for rescuing their daughter, but for providing reassurance and guidance afterward. The afternoon passed quietly, and the atmosphere was warm with shared stories and gentle humor. The girl began to talk more openly about her interests and hobbies, and the Rock and Cena listened, asking questions and showing genuine curiosity. The conversation was natural, human, and without any sense of performance. They were there to connect, not to impress, and it showed. Later, the girl's parents invited them to stay for a simple meal. Everyone shared food and light conversation, creating a sense of normalcy that had been missing since the SOS signal flickered across the beach. The girl laughed more freely now, her initial fear giving way to a sense of safety and trust. The Rock and Cena made small jokes, not about themselves but about everyday situations, which helped the girl feel more at ease. After the meal, they helped the girl's parents create a simple plan for water safety, including emergency signals, safe practices, and ways to stay calm during dangerous situations. The parents were appreciative, taking notes and asking questions, and the girl listened carefully. She felt empowered by the information, realizing that while the ocean had seemed frightening, she could learn ways to protect herself in the future. Before leaving, the Rock knelt down to the girl's level and smiled. "You're strong and brave. Remember that. And never hesitate to ask for help when you need it. There are always people willing to help if you reach out." Cena added, "The important thing is to believe in yourself. You did that last night, and it made all the difference. Trust yourself and keep being brave." The girl nodded, feeling a mixture of gratitude and admiration. Her parents hugged both men warmly, thanking them again for their care and guidance. It was a moment of connection that transcended fame and status, focused purely on human compassion and bravery. As they left the house, the Rock and Cena reflected on the morning's events. Saving the girl had been critical, but helping her regain confidence and ensuring her family felt supported had been just as important. They realized that heroism wasn't only about a single act of courage. It was about the care that followed, the reassurance and the empowerment that allowed someone to recover fully. Back at their hotel, they spoke quietly about the impact of such moments. Both understood that while their work in film and charity was meaningful, real-life situations like these carried lessons that no script could capture. They felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that their actions had tangible consequences, directly affecting someone's life for the better. The day concluded with a quiet sense of fulfillment. The girl would continue to recover, supported by her parents and community with new knowledge and confidence to face the world safely. The Rock and Cena, meanwhile, carried the memory of the rescue and the morning's conversations. Understanding that true heroism involved compassion, guidance, and human connection, not just physical courage. As night fell again, the town returned to calm, but the story of bravery Resilience and care lingered. The girl's life had been changed, not only by the rescue but by the kindness and wisdom she had received. The Rock and Cena's decision to follow the SOS signal had created ripples of safety, trust, and hope, demonstrating that even ordinary people could make extraordinary differences when they acted with heart. The day after the rescue, the town felt like a quiet haven. The sun shone brightly, and the ocean shimmered under the warm light. The girl, now feeling safer and more confident, was eager to go outside again, though cautiously. Her parents encouraged her, reminding her to take small steps and enjoy the world without fear. The Rock and John Cena had arranged to visit her again, wanting to check on her progress and continue helping her regain confidence near the water. When they arrived, the girl ran toward them with a mix of excitement and nervous energy. She hugged each of them, still holding on to the lessons of bravery and calm from the previous day. The Rock smiled warmly. "You're looking stronger today," he said. "I can see the difference already," Cena added. "Every step counts. Today is about making more steps, feeling comfortable, and knowing that the ocean isn't something to fear, but something to respect." They decided to take a walk along a safer part of the shoreline, where the waves lapped gently and the rocks were fewer. The girl's small steps were cautious at first, but with guidance from both men, she began to explore more freely. The Rock and Cena maintained a watchful eye, encouraging her at every step and praising her progress. She started noticing details she had missed before: the glint of seashells in the sand, the soft breeze against her face, and the distant calls of birds flying overhead. During the walk, the girl asked questions about how the Rock and Cena knew what to do during emergencies. Cena explained calmly that experience, observation, and instincts played a huge role. The Rock emphasized the importance of noticing signals and taking action quickly. The girl listened carefully, absorbing each lesson. She realized that courage wasn't just about physical strength, but also about thinking clearly, making decisions, and helping oneself and others when it mattered most. As they walked further, they reached a small pier that extended into the water. The girl hesitated for a moment, looking at the gentle waves. Cena knelt beside her and suggested starting small by dipping her toes into the water, while staying safe on the pier. She did as he said, giggling as the cold water touched her feet. The Rock cheered softly, giving her a thumbs up. Each small step was a victory, and she began to feel a sense of control over the environment that had scared her so deeply. The afternoon passed with laughter, gentle guidance, and careful observation. The girl learned how to watch the waves, recognize safe spots, and maintain balance near the water. The Rock and Cena shared practical tips in ways that were easy to understand and relatable. They emphasized that fear was natural, but could be managed with knowledge, caution, and support. The girl started to feel empowered, realizing that the ocean didn't have to be a source of terror anymore. Later, they returned to a quiet spot near a shaded area of the beach. The girl sat down, her energy spent but her mind more at ease. She asked the Rock and Cena about the night of the rescue again, wanting to understand what had happened from their perspective. They shared their thoughts, not focusing on themselves but on the importance of noticing danger and acting without hesitation. The girl was fascinated, realizing that ordinary decisions could have extraordinary consequences when made with care and courage. Her parents joined them, grateful for the continued guidance and reassurance. They asked questions about safety practices, emergency signals, and how to stay calm in dangerous situations. The Rock and Cena provided clear, practical advice, making it easy for the family to understand and implement. The atmosphere was relaxed yet meaningful, filled with learning, laughter, and connection. As the sun began to lower, casting a golden hue over the ocean, the Rock suggested a small activity to reinforce confidence, practicing sending signals safely from the shore. The girl eagerly participated, waving a small flashlight in the pattern of an SOS while her parents watched. Cena guided her, explaining how important it was to stay visible and clear when signaling for help. The girl realized that the same skills that had saved her life the night before could now be practiced safely, giving her more confidence for the future. After the practice, they all sat together on a blanket, sharing a quiet moment while watching the waves. The girl's parents expressed their heartfelt gratitude, explaining how much it meant to have guidance and support from people who had not only rescued their daughter, but had also taken the time to ensure her emotional recovery. The girl leaned back, feeling a sense of peace that had been missing since the incident began. She understood that help came not just in moments of crisis, but in the gentle guidance that followed. The rock and Cena reminded her that bravery didn't end with a single act. It continued in the choices one made afterward, staying calm, learning from experiences, and helping oneself and others when needed. The girl listened intently, feeling a new sense of responsibility and confidence. She realized that her actions mattered, and that the world was full of people who could act with kindness and courage when they noticed someone in need. As evening approached, they walked back toward the girl's home. The rock and Cena reflected on the day's progress, feeling a quiet satisfaction. The girl had grown visibly stronger and more confident, her fear of water transforming into respect and awareness. Her parents were reassured, and the family had gained knowledge and strategies to stay safe in the future. Before leaving, the rock knelt once more to the girl's level. "Remember what you've learned," he said gently. "You're brave, you're smart, and you know how to stay safe. Every day is a chance to practice courage." Cena added, "And remember, there will always be people willing to help when you need it. Trust yourself, and trust others when help is offered." The girl nodded, a smile of understanding and gratitude spreading across her face. Her parents hugged both men, expressing deep appreciation for the care, guidance, and patience they had shown. It was a moment of connection that went beyond the rescue. It was about growth, trust, and human kindness. As they left, the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The beach returned to calm, but the impact of the day lingered. The girl had not only survived a frightening experience, but had also begun to reclaim her confidence, learning that courage involved action, learning and trust. Back at their hotel, the rock and Cena spoke quietly about the morning and afternoon. They realized that real heroism wasn't only about dramatic rescues, but also about the quieter moments of teaching, guiding, and supporting someone afterward. They felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that the girl's recovery and confidence were now stronger than ever. The night settled over the town, peaceful and still, but the story of bravery, hope, and care continued quietly in the hearts of those involved. The girl, her parents, the rock, and Cena all carried the lessons of the day forward, understanding that courage, compassion, and guidance could make an extraordinary difference in the life of someone in need. The following morning, the town felt calm and ordinary, yet the memory of the events of the past days was fresh in everyone's minds. The girl had begun to regain her confidence and composure. The ocean no longer seemed threatening, but it still commanded respect. She had learned to approach it carefully, understanding the balance between caution and courage. Today, the rock and John Cena had planned to spend more time with her, reinforcing her newfound confidence and making sure her recovery from the frightening experience was complete. The girl was waiting eagerly, a little nervous but excited. Her parents walked alongside her, grateful for the guidance and reassurance the two men had offered. When the rock and Cena arrived, the girl ran toward them, smiling brightly. She hugged each of them tightly, her gratitude obvious and heartfelt. The rock smiled warmly while Cena patted her shoulder gently. "It's great to see you today," Cena said. "You're looking even stronger and braver than before." They decided to walk along a safe stretch of the beach, away from rocks and strong currents. The girl's steps were careful at first, but with gentle encouragement she began to explore more freely. The rock and Cena watched closely, offering praise and support for each small victory. Every step forward reinforced the lessons she had learned about courage, observation, and the importance of staying calm in challenging situations. As they walked, the girl asked more questions about the rescue. She wanted to understand what had gone through the rock and Cena's minds when they first saw the SOS signal. Cena explained that experience, observation, and instinct were critical. The rock emphasized that noticing details, acting quickly, and staying calm were the keys to helping someone in danger. The girl listened intently, her curiosity and determination shining through. She realized that bravery was not just about physical strength, but about thinking clearly and taking decisive action. They reached a small pier where the waves were gentle. The girl hesitated, remembering the fear she had felt the night of the rescue. Cena encouraged her to start small, dipping her toes into the water while remaining on solid ground. She did so, giggling as the cool water touched her feet. The rock cheered softly, giving her a thumbs up. The small victories added up, and she began to feel a sense of control over the environment that had previously seemed threatening. Throughout the afternoon, the Rock and Cena continued to provide guidance, showing her how to observe waves, recognize safe spots, and maintain balance near water. They explained that fear was natural but could be managed with knowledge, preparation, and the support of others. The girl began to feel empowered, realizing that she could approach the ocean with awareness rather than fear. They took breaks along the way, sitting on the sand, talking, and sharing stories. The girl's parents listened, learning practical safety tips and gaining confidence in their ability to guide her safely. The Rock and Cena shared experiences not to impress but to teach, offering real-life examples of vigilance and courage. The atmosphere was calm, educational, and filled with warmth, humor, and human connection. Later, they practiced sending SOS signals safely from the shore. The girl learned to wave a small flashlight in the pattern, understanding how clear communication could save lives. She realized that the skills she had used to save herself could now be practiced in a controlled environment, further building her confidence and reinforcing her knowledge of safety. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the ocean, they sat together on a blanket watching the waves. The girl reflected on her experience, feeling grateful for the courage she had found within herself and the guidance she had received from the Rock and Cena. Her parents expressed deep gratitude, acknowledging that the rescue had not only saved her life, but had provided invaluable lessons that would stay with her forever. The Rock knelt beside the girl, speaking gently. "Remember what you've learned about courage and safety. You're brave, smart, and capable. Every day is a chance to practice those skills and keep growing stronger." Cena added, "And remember, there will always be people willing to help. Trust yourself and trust others when help is offered. Courage is not just facing danger. It's knowing when to ask for help and learning from each experience." The girl nodded, understanding the depth of their words. She felt a sense of empowerment and reassurance that she had not known before. Her fear had transformed into respect and awareness, and she now felt equipped to face challenges with confidence and calm. As evening fell, the family walked back toward their home, the girl between her parents, holding the lessons of the day close to her heart. The Rock and Cena reflected on the week's events, understanding that true heroism was not only about dramatic rescues but also about the quieter, lasting impact of teaching, guidance, and human connection. Back at their hotel, the Rock and Cena shared their reflections quietly. They realized that while their work in film and public appearances was important, real-life moments like these carried a different kind of weight and fulfillment. They had witnessed courage, provided support, and helped someone regain confidence after a terrifying ordeal. That, they agreed, was a lasting and meaningful impact. The girl, now safely home, felt a sense of peace she had not known since the night she had sent the SOS signal. She understood that help could come from unexpected places and that courage and careful action could change the outcome of frightening situations. The support she had received from the Rock and Cena, combined with her own bravery, had created a turning point in her life. The following days, the girl shared her experience with friends and family, emphasizing the lessons she had learned about courage, awareness, and seeking help when needed. The story of her SOS, the rising tide, and the men who responded spread quietly through the town, inspiring others to pay attention, act quickly, and care for those in need. For the Rock and Cena, the memory of the rescue, the guidance, and the connection with the girl and her family remained vivid. They had experienced firsthand the power of empathy, action, and human connection. The story reinforced the idea that true heroism was about noticing a need, acting without hesitation, and following through with care and support. As the town returned to its usual rhythm, the girl continued to grow more confident, learning to navigate the ocean safely and understanding her own strength. Her family felt reassured, equipped with knowledge and practices to keep her safe in the future. The Rock and Cena had left a lasting impression, not through fame or recognition, but through the quiet, meaningful acts of courage, guidance, and genuine care. The story of the SOS signal and the two men who responded became a memory of courage, hope, and kindness. It was a story not just of a dramatic rescue, but of human connection, growth, and the lasting impact of empathy and action. The girl, her family, and the town carried the lessons forward, understanding that ordinary moments could become extraordinary through courage, care, and the willingness to help. when it mattered most.